Hey guys, welcome back. So now getting back into our talks of the Infected, to where at this point for this one I want to jump into a few of the tie-ins as well as talk about what's going on within Batman Superman. So let's get into it, but first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so picking up from where we last left off in our talks of Batman Superman, which is where most of these references will come from, with that being like the lead series of the Infected, and all of the other tie-ins just kind of weaving through. But where we had last left off was with Blue Beetle when he had hijacked Commissioner Gordon's rookie armor in a Trojan horse type of plot set up by the Batman Who Laughs. And when this happened, Blue Beetle had pretty much taken over the Fortress of Solitude, and with doing so he used Superman's resources to hack the Hall of Justice and the Batcave. And really, once you've hacked and taken control of those three, you can pretty much do anything. But a few of the things that kind of fly under the radar with this, and mainly starting with Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, is that Batman notices that Blue Beetle is much more powerful than what they're used to, which is something pretty important to remember because in the case of Batman, who's prepared for almost anything, and I say almost anything because if he was prepared for actually everything, we wouldn't be in this situation. But one of the big things to notice is the reason why he is so well prepared is because he pays attention in moments like this. Because with Batman essentially being the first person from Earth Zero to be infected, because he had this experience under his belt, he knows a good amount about the serum because he witnessed it firsthand, and with this experience it even gave him the confidence to do the whole undercover trial using Superman by infecting Superman and attempting to use him to get more information out of the Batman Who Laughs. And so jump forward to the Fortress of Solitude, through Blue Beetle they're introduced to the idea of the serum amplifying their powers as well, which would make a lot of sense with everything we've seen with King Shazam, who we've seen making his rounds beating down Black Adam, Ares, Rao, and a bunch of others, to whom many of which he overpowered very easily. And like when we talked about that, I remember a lot of you guys saying in the comments like, well, they were just holding back because they knew he was a kid. Man, let me tell you something, like if a little kid twists my arm like that, he ain't no little kid no more. Like playtime is over, trust me. Boys told a story about the man, like come on. And so now along with this, another thing that we come to find out is that Donna Troy and Hawkman from Earth 3, which reveals to us specifically who two of the other Batarangs had infected. But even with seeing this is another one of those moments where it's like, as crazy as the Infected series is, when Wonder Girl, Donna Troy, and Hawkman start telling Batman and Superman much of their animosity which was buried down deep inside, with Donna blaming them for the death of Wally, for Dick Grayson getting shot, and really everything that Roy Harper's been through, even though I believe Roy needed to take a bit of accountability for some of that, but that's a whole nother topic. But mainly with giving these examples, we get to better understand how she truly feels with her sharing something that she might have never told anyone under different circumstances. And it's kind of the same for Earth 3 Carter Hall, when he tells Batman that he's just sick of him having a plan for everything. And it's like, we get it, they're infected, they're not holding back their emotions or their powers. But it's like, you gotta keep in mind, even with doing this, it's like you just know in the back of your head, like Batman's taking notes. And so now at this point with Commissioner Gordon, who, like, he even admits himself, like underneath it all, he feels like Batman makes him look stupid anytime that Batman disappears on a rooftop in the middle of a conversation. Which within context, it really feels like his motivation for telling Batman and Superman like the plans of the Batman Who Laughs, and really just the plans as far as what Commissioner Gordon knows. Because what these plans entail at this point, after assembling the Secret Six, it's here that Gordon expresses that the Batman Who Laughs needed these 6 specific heroes, to which all of them had very different power sets, whether it be magic, alien technology, and nth metal amongst others, but using them all together to bring the Watchtower satellite from the dark multiverse into this universe in order to do a purge that would pretty much infect everyone else here in one fell swoop. But in order to do so, Superman is the last one who's needed in order to make it work. And I also gotta say that many of you probably think that this whole recipe for the Secret Six is very reminiscent of your cosmic tuning tower, which we had seen from Crisis, which used different heroes in order to connect to a specific frequency and open doorways throughout the multiverse. And if you're thinking that, then you're 100% correct, because Gordon goes on to explain that the Batman Who Laughs is using the technology that both Batman and Superman used back in Dark Knight's Metal, both from the Kryptonian Phantom Zone projector and from the Cosmic Tower, which they had later used to send Superman into the dark multiverse in order to bring back Batman. But this is the same technology that the Batman Who Laughs is taking from them in order to bring his Watchtower to Earth Zero. And all the while with doing this, they're aware that the Fortress of Solitude has a silent alarm that only Kryptonians can could hear. And with doing this, the plan is essentially to affect Superman and use him and the others to kill anyone else who comes to save him. Whether it's Supergirl, Crypto, or Superboy, like at this point the plan is just to take them out. But with Commissioner Gordon pretty much giving them this dope spill on the plans of the Batman Who Laughs, Batman pretty much gets Hawkman and Commissioner Gordon at the same time by telling them he does plan for everything, which includes someone stealing the rookie armor, which Batman then sets off as a smoke screen so him and Superman can get out of there. And so it's like with doing this, it's like, yeah, Hawkman, I do plan for everything. And Commissioner Gordon, I'm out. Which is two of the things that the both of them hate the most, low key, but at the same time it also lets you know that Batman's been listening. But with doing this, when Batman and Superman get away to another part of the fortress, it's also at this time that Superman finally tells Batman that the Batman Who Laughs has been talking in Superman's ear this whole time. And Batman's more or less like, tune him out, focus on me. And when Batman says this, I couldn't more or less think like, okay, well, you know the Batman Who Laughs does a pretty darn good Bruce Wayne impression. So that's something that could have gotten tricky at any point. But the thing is, also after getting away from Gordon and the others, you gotta keep in mind that there's nobody here who knows the Fortress of Solitude like Superman. And because of this, he then takes Batman to the core, letting Batman know that it's also been prepared for a situation like this. Because if the fortress is ever compromised, Superman can then activate a shutdown, which will sink this entire fortress, but even with doing so, lock everyone inside in order to contain the destruction, which Batman even mentions may be the price that needs to be paid in order to quarantine the infection in order to save the rest of the world. And so now with Hawkman and Donna Troy, who are looking for Batman and Superman, and you gotta forgive me, like just for saying Hawkman and Donna, I can't help but to think of Wolfman and Donna. Like, ask for the Wolfman, Wolfman, Donna, Wolfman, because yeah, I'm that old. And technically their infected versions have different names, so for Donna it's Deathbringer, and for Hawkman it's Sky Tyrant. I had a brain fart there, I couldn't think of it. But essentially with the two of them looking for Batman and Superman and arguing amongst each other during the search, Batman comes crashing in as part of him and Superman's plan to distract everyone, because at this point Superman still needs to get to Blue Beetle, who is Scarab at this point, so that Superman can get access to the Fortress of Solitude long enough to activate the core. But also while this is happening, that silent alarm which Gordon had mentioned, we find out soon after that it was heard by Supergirl, who at the time throughout the Supergirl series, she had been held captive by Brainiac 1, but was able to get free, and not long after she heard this alarm. And I tell you, like, she couldn't have heard this alarm no sooner, because if Hawkman would have got one good hit on Batman, I am almost certain that Bruce would have been done. And I know it's gonna be plenty of people in the comments who's like, no, he's Batman, he's ready for anything. Alright, yeah, tell that to his medical history. But with Supergirl arriving just in time, in my opinion. But with her arriving just in time and joining into this fight, though she doesn't know, what she's doing is completely helping the whole distraction plan. Because prior to her even coming here, like, Batman and Superman had the conversation of Batman just going up against Donna Troy alone. Because facing with Donna Troy, she's like not that far from fighting Wonder Woman, which Batman has done, and he remembers every painful moment. And so now in the case of Scarab, aka Blue Beetle, who is nearly done with building the tower, but even with doing so, there's a bit of a delay with Reyes trying to fight against the infection even still while this is happening, which also gives Superman the opportunity to create some space between him and Gordon. And once again, Superman's doing this in an attempt to gain access to the Fortress of Solitude's computer, but also try to help Blue Beetle by letting him know that he can fight this, but also that Superman will help him as soon as this is over. But even with doing this, Donna Troy convinces Blue Beetle that he was being tricked by Superman, to which because of the infection he actually believes for that moment. And when they take this opportunity to infect Superman, Supergirl swoops in, she catches the Batarang, and it's like boom, she don't feel too good. Which for me was like a very similar moment to when Shazam's sister Mary got infected, because it's like you get that moment of like, oh no, another one goes under. But so now from here, kind of blending what we've seen from the different series, it's here where we get the arrival of King Shazam, who arrives here now, but we've talked about prior to this point what he's been doing. Because even though he's been out of the picture as far as Batman Superman and the whole tango leading to the Fortress of Solitude, during this time he's been infecting members of his family and in a way putting together his own secret Six, which was really like our first sign of a member of the Secret Six taking on plans of their own versus being a team player, which is very Joker-esque. And we've seen this more recently with the Joker quitting the Legion of Doom, and even the Batman Who Laughs was doing his thing back in Dark Knight's Metal. So with that, it's really no surprise that members of the Secret Six would follow a similar behavior. But at this point, with this happening and Supergirl catching that Batarang, which was clearly designed for the intention of infecting the Kryptonian, but with this happening, it then makes her that missing piece of the puzzle by taking Superman's spot as that Kryptonian that was needed to activate Scarab's tower and bring through the satellite of the Batman Who Laughs from the Dark Multiverse. And when this happens, like, Gordon, who has the least creative name out of everybody, is just the commissioner. And he probably wanted to go by the commish, but it was taken. But even still, if he tried that, I'm pretty sure King Shazam would have been like, nah, scratch that, that's whack. Like, just imagine these guys arguing over whose name is what. But even still with this happening, like, this isn't the original team which the Batman Who Laughs had planned to put together. But even still, when it happens, it still plays into his favor with him getting a Kryptonian on his team. But doing this also flips the scene for Superman, because it's like, you're no longer needed, so now you're just a target. But immediately after doing this and wasting no time whatsoever, the 6 of them then use this cosmic tower, which was built by Blue Beetle, to open this door to the dark multiverse. But even with doing this, not much longer after this happens, Supergirl then leaves them to go handle some of her own unfinished business. And with doing this, she then goes back to Brainiac 1 to get her revenge, because Brainiac 1 had lured her in, infected her with nanobots. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna leave, take care of this dude, and I'll be right back. Because for Kara, with her now being infected, this isn't something that she's just gonna let go. So because of this, at this moment where she decides to leave the Secret Six and go handle her business, like, when she does, she definitely does. And when she finds him, she completely just murders this Brainiac cyborg. And trust me, like, long story short, it was not a quick death. And it's like, for Supergirl, who I hope stays like this for a while, like, I could get used to this. But in her case of going on her own and taking care of this personal business, like, a couple things come to mind. Because one, the thing that reminded her of what had happened here, it was mainly the fact that as soon as she got infected, she remembered what had taken place with her not too long ago, because she had coughed up the nanites, which Brainiac 1 had caused her to breathe in. And after doing so, she had flashbacks of everything that happened, and that's why she left the Secret Six to come here. But with her doing this and coughing up the nanites as soon as she got infected with the Batarang, it causes a couple of questions to kind of pop up in my head. Like, one, did she cough up all the nanites, or is she kind of dealing with both at the same time? And if I had to guess, I'd assume that the whole nanite thing is over with and really just closing that chapter and bringing her into the infected. But even with doing so, we see her repeat a bit of the behavior which I talked about with King Shazam, and in a slightly different way with Kara, because she takes in consideration the whole thing with the Secret Six, and she more or less tells Crypto that we don't need those guys because the two of them are just enough together. And I guess we'll have to wait and see exactly how that pans out, like if she decides to return to the Secret Six, because it seems like they mainly got what they needed from her at this point. But whether she does or doesn't, I kind of feel bad for Crypto, who was waiting behind for her, and he just following her along through this whole thing now. Like, when she left, she was cool, then she came back infected, but even still, Crypto was just going along with her for the ride. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like, who are some of your favorites out of the infected? Me personally, you can probably tell, is King Shazam and Supergirl, but I want to know some of who are your favorites, so let me know down in the comments, and we'll do it again in the next one. Alright, later.